Okay. Logical fallacies. So right now I want to explain uh, what I call identity misattribution. What I mean by this is when people experience things, they often have a belief that it's their experiences that shape them. Like, if you were to ask someone who they are, they'll say, I'm a product of my experiences. And they believe that they're unique because their experiences are inherently unique. And they think that their combination of experiences is what produces them. Those types of people are also very prone to, like, oh, everything is just random. A series of circumstances on top of series of circumstances, and they have a very like luck determines everything uh point of view generally, or they're prone to that. So what does it mean? Let's break it down first. Like let's break down the original view that most people have. What does it mean for experiences to shape you? So, what even are experiences? And are experiences inherently unique? Because I don't think they are. Um, let's split experiences into two parts. So there's two components that makes up an experience. Experiences are made up of events, and then those events are, well, actually, it's more than two. Those events are then interpreted. Interpretation. Um, that's kind of it, actually. So you have your events, something happens, and then how you interpret it, and then how you end up perceiving it. Um, Perception. So, events themselves, in their own tiny little details, yeah, they're gonna be unique because even though we have the same experiences, for example, there might be uh, in a class 30 people or 100 people doing the same exam, and that's a common event, and it's happening across many schools across the whole country. So there's thousands of students uh, doing an exam. If you were really pedantic, you could argue that everyone's sitting in different seats, everyone has different um, schools, everyone's in a different position, everyone's in a different uh time is affecting everyone differently or whatever bullshit, right? I mean, and they would be correct. Of course, it's not identical. We're not all doing maybe the same. We don't have the same amount of knowledge. We didn't have the same teachers. We're not sitting in the same chair. We're not um in the same school doing the exam. Yeah, if you're pedantic, that is true. But the if you were to take it into an abstract perception, then there are gonna be a lot of common factors for everyone. So minor details such as seat number, uh, and school or whatever, right? Those are gonna be unique, yeah, to you. Even though school is The collection of these is going to be unique. Not maybe not each individually. Um, but the major things are going to be not unique. They're going to be extremely um, you're able to derive them into common components. For example, you need to write on a piece of paper or some shit. Um, or someone might not even have to do that. Okay, that even that might be a minor detail. Um, but factors such as like your knowledge being testing, tested, uh, knowledge, um, then in a high pressure or let's just say this. Let's keep it simple. And you could say that's not the same because everyone's going to have different levels of knowledge. Everyone's going to be, let's split this into unique and common. If you're extremely pedantic, yes, you could break this down into unique components, such as some people will have different levels of preparation, right? So someone getting it's more like getting tested. Someone's sitting there, he has no fucking idea what these questions are even asking, and he's just YOLOing it, right? So, in a sense, yes, you have different levels of preparation. Yes, you do have uh, small deviations, but the core experience is will still have common factors. And that common factor is that the test takes an hour or something like that, or 2 hours, and that you're uh, told that you're supposed to finish it within that time, that you're not supposed to speak during it, that if you fail it, you might get into trouble or whatever. Of course, not all of those things are always going to be in line, and some people will deviate and have unique experiences within that, but vast majority of people doing tests will have a lot of commonality in their experience to a degree where even if someone else in another country, in another generation, in another culture, in another school, in another seat number is doing this a similar test on a similar subject with similar time frame, you will be able to relate to them thanks to this common uh, components of your experience. And in that regard, humans are also not very unique. Generally, our experiences are very, very similar, or there's a lot of commonality. For example, if you were to put your hand in a fire, it would hurt. Doesn't matter uh, who you are, what skin color, what uh, nationality you come from, or whatever, right? It's not going to affect that for vast majority of people. Of course, if you have some weird nerve condition where you don't feel things, yeah, you're going to be an exception to that one specific common factor of an experience, which you will still share other experiences with people. But I'm saying those are exceptions and not the rule. So a vast majority of experiences are, if you were to draw like this falls under the standard distribution curve, like the bell curve. Um, like most things do, vast majority of people, their experience is going to deviate a very small amount, and there's going to be some exceptions whose experiences are going to deviate a large amount. But 99% of people, for in 99% of cases, will sit in this near median category. So, and even people that deviate, uh, vast majority of them, if you were to compare them across all the other different means of comparison, different experiences, then for most things, they're also going to be in the majority. It's just they happen to be an outlier for a particular um, comparison metric. For example, someone might be, let's apply this to IQ, right? Someone might be a genius, right? He might be top 0.001% genius, and he's an outlier in this regard. But now you take all geniuses that we've ever had, all of these people, and we compare them for height. And of course, there will be some very tall geniuses, but vast majority of them are still going to be average height. And because there's no reason for them not to, there's no correlation between genius and height, or there shouldn't be logically. Um, so just because you're an outlier in one of these comparisons does not really make you an exception to this thing. Uh, Most likely. Of course, there's someone who's gonna just be an outlier in everything, but that person is like one in a infinity odds, basically. Vast majority of people are average at most things, and then outliers a little bit in something. So the point I'm making is an experience will have unique components, and if you are very pedantic, yes, there's a lot of unique differences, but it will also have a lot of common components. And if you were to uh, cross-reference everyone's experiences, then you'll find that there's really, 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 really a lot of commonality across most people in their experiences. They're like 90% the same and 10% different for the vast majority of people. Um, so in that regard, in people's experiences or like the way they experience events, I guess you could say this is interpretation, um, is not really unique. It will be technically unique, but not to a large enough degree to argue, oh, my experiences are so unique that you can't relate to them. No, yes, your experiences are unique, but they're also 80% the same as my experiences, which are also unique. So there's a very large common factor between them. So just to say experiences are unique, we cannot understand each other, we cannot relate, is is just false. Um, so uh, so the experiences, like the base experiences and their interpretation, is very um common generally. Um, and perception, fuck it, I've overcomplicated it. Let's just go like this. So we have events and perception. So events themselves are not extremely unique, and your perception of them is, in most cases, well, your perception of them is the thing that you can make unique. because you control how you perceive events. For example, um, well, no, for you to create a perception of events, which are partially unique but mostly common with everyone else, it needs to go through your own consciousness, your own processing, um, your own interpretation. Interpretation. And that is basically filtering something for your consciousness um, to generate an insight or perception of it or whatever. So events go through you, you interpret them, and it creates your perception of them. What you are will strongly affect how you perceive things. For example, let's say you have very low self-esteem and very low confidence, and you believe that you're inferior to everyone in other way or whatever, you have like inferiority complex. All events in your life will go through this filter of um, I am doing a test. This is a challenge, but I am inferior to everyone else. Therefore, this is a um, such a painful obstacle for me because it's just another event that's going to you're going to interpret it in a negative way because of your own bias. So if we take someone who's very confident and he's going to face exactly the same things, he's going to do a test and he's going to be like, hell yeah, finally I'm doing a test. I have a chance to prove my worth, or I'm just excited for the challenge because they have confidence into them. A challenge isn't an obstacle. It's an obstacle to be overcome. It's not an obstacle to fall by. They don't have like a assumption of weakness. They have an assumption of strength. So it's kind of like if you're watching a movie and the movie might be mostly the same for everyone because you're in a theater, you're looking at it from different angles. The movie will look a little bit different to everyone because the screen is at a certain angle and it's going to have slightly different angle for everyone. But in general, you're still going to see the same movie and you're still going to um have a lot in common with the way other people see the movie. But then you have like different shades. Someone might be in sunglasses, someone might be in pink glasses or whatever, someone might be in 3D glasses, someone might be with no glasses. And that's going to apply your biases onto the perception. It's going to color the movie. And it doesn't matter what movie you go to, what angle you're sitting on. If you have pink glasses, every single movie will look pink. So that is much more consistent. There's a very consistent. So there's two consistent things. Most things um, are consistent in the fact that they have a lot in common, no matter who's observing them or experiencing them. And the second thing that is consistent is when you're observing something, you're consistently applying your own bias, your own filter onto it. And that determines how you will engage with it and how you will perceive it and what conclusions you will come to. So, what I'm trying to say is experiences are not this unique thing that shapes a person. What uh, they're very common and um, everyone has experiences. And for each experiences experience that you think that is unique, there's probably thousands or millions of people that have experienced this um, experience or something that it has a lot in common with this experience. And in that regard, just because you've experienced something, just because you watched a movie, just because you went to school and did a test, doesn't actually make you special. That's not what makes you special. Um, there's people that go to uh, there's people that are like university dropouts that become billionaires, and there's university dropouts that don't become billionaires. So what makes you special isn't the fact that you're a university dropout, it's the fact that you're what you do with it after, or who you are as a university dropout, if that makes sense. Because that's going to have a way more consistent impact on your life. For example, um, uh, let's go through. So you might have an experience of something, and your personal bias is to learn from experiences and to have like a high engagement with them, which involves, I don't know, reflecting on what you could have done better, reflecting on whether you want that experience again, things like this. And you're going to have a high degree of insight from experiences if you engage with them in let's just say if you engage with them at all, or reflective. If you're reflective, right? You reflect a lot. And then if you have the same experiences but you're not reflective, then you're not gonna have any insight, right? This is really dumb, but so you have an experience, you have experiences, and you're reflective, you're gonna have insights. If you have experiences and you're not reflective, you're not gonna have insights. So, same how you might watch the same movie with someone sitting right beside you, and then go and speak to them about this movie, and then when you have a conversation with them, you realize that they didn't actually think about the contents of the movie. There might be some crazy metaphors, there might be some meaning, there might be some storyline or whatever that the movie is trying to portray, and you might reflect on those and be like, oh, very interesting idea the author was trying to uh, show through this movie. And then your friend who you watch the movie with will be like, nah, that was just a dumb movie. And or they might be like, oh, that was a cool movie, but they might not have noticed all the, subtle things that were trying to portray something. They might not have thought about it that much. And you have just gone through the same experience, you watched the same movie, and but your output from them is completely different. This movie might be life-changing to you. You might have watched it and being like, damn, that's a very powerful idea. I want to um, implement that into my life. And someone else might watch that and be like, oh, the main character is so cool. And then just lives their life exactly like they were doing before. So, and over time, across many different things, this is going to create a very massive deviation in your paths because you will have a bias towards a certain type of engagement, and they'll have a bias for another type of engagement. And over time, even small deviations in these engagements will become massive gaps in results and the paths you will take in life. So what makes you you is the way you interact with things. It's the way you connect with things. So all the people that are always like putting up their trauma and then saying some shit like, you can't understand me, you don't have the same trauma, or uh, and they're using it as an identity, like, yeah, but I'm like this because this happened to me, of course I'm gonna be like this. They are just unable to parse their experiences from their own self-interpretation, and they don't have a strong self-awareness to realize that they can parse things instead of just observing them. Like their level of consciousness is not high enough to be able to become self-aware enough to realize that they have still to realize what biases they have viewed those experiences as. So what makes you special is not your childhood, it's not your experiences. What makes you special is you in the current moment, who you are today, and how you perceive things. I think that answers what I wanted to talk about. Where's the title? Hello? What the fuck? I don't know where it is. Whatever. Oh, logical fallacies. So basically, people misattribute their identity not to their self, but to their experiences, which is false.